As an artist, the idea of realism and hyperrealism being the ultimate achievement has been an idea I've been trying to escape. In the eyes of a child, this technical achievement overshadows all other art, but getting older and improving my own technical skill and artist's eye, I've grown to find immense value in departing from realism. Artists Vincent van Gogh and Claude Monet both explore the ways light and color change the world around us. In exploring these ideas, they become free from the shackles of reality, creating mesmerizing works of art that heighten the beauty of reality. Vincent van Gogh was a post-impressionist artist. At the age of 16, he apprenticed at the Gogh and a branch of the art dealers Gogh & Company. In this line of work, he was exposed to a variety of artworks that would form his artistic taste. He wouldn't begin his artistic career until after being dismissed by church authorities while doing missionary work. His mission in his art was to give the wretched a brotherly message. In the first 4 years of his artistic career, he stuck to working with watercolors and drawings, bolstering his technical skill. He moved many times from 1881 to 1885. He would move to live with his brother in 1886. Here in Paris, Van Gogh would be exposed to many modern artists and movements, such as Impressionism and Pointillism. Van Gogh's post-impressionism would solidify in 1888. Tired from the city life, he would move this same year to Arles, France. Later in the year, while trying to create connections with other artists, his relationship with fellow artist Paul Gauguin grew thin. Van Gogh's ears was cut off by Gauguin after an argument. Van Gogh took responsibility for the incident, leading to hospitalization. This event left him disturbed, and he was hospitalized again. He would admit himself in an asylum in 1889, where his mental health deteriorated. Van Gogh struggled with overwhelming loneliness, and in 1890 he ended his life. Throughout his artistic career, he never reached financial independence through his work. This lack of success contributed to his despair. Despite not living to see it, Van Gogh would go on to be one of the most famous artists in history. I feel this work is culturally significant, like much of Van Gogh's work, not only because of the way he painted, but why he painted. Van Gogh was drawn to the outdoors and nature for the majority of his life, wandering the Brabant countryside as a boy and finding calm when walking outdoors. Iris's 1889 is a prime example of painting and nature being a solace for Van Gogh, as he painted it within his first week at an asylum in Saint-Remy, France. Despite the artist's struggle with mental illness, his artwork largely focused on the lighthearted subject matter of nature. In his works, viewers get to see the world as Van Gogh did, with focus on light, color, and texture, capturing the essence of the flora and fauna. This painting captures the almost overwhelming complexity of nature, expertly interpreted and simplified by Van Gogh to create an image pleasing to the eye. The busyness of the scene is still very present in the artwork, but Van Gogh's use of line, value, color, and texture focuses the eye on the most important details while still conveying the vastness of nature. Van Gogh, much like many other European artists during this time, took inspiration from Japanese woodblock prints. The influence is especially apparent in his use of line, giving many of the foreground irises a dark blue line. This gives the work an illustrative quality while also playing with depth and flatness. Lines define the shapes of the flower blooms. These organic forms create contrast between the simpler, curved shapes of the leaves in the foreground. Heavy brushwork in the painting works in tandem with the line. Heavy brushwork creates the illusion that the artwork is moving. The small brushstrokes within the ground contrast with the larger, smoother waves created by the iris leaves. The brushwork follows the contour of the flowers and greenery, further defining the forms and the texture of the different elements within the artwork. The use of color in the painting is vital to the success of the composition as it organizes the different elements. There is a play with cool and warm tones that divide the foreground and background. The foreground consists of cool tones that pop off the warmth of the background field. Cool greens of the iris leaves contrast off the warm red-brown of the ground. Dark blooms of blue and violet stand out from the warmer colors of the background, where yellow and orange flowers draw the eyes to the detail in the distance. Van Gogh organizes the array of color by using complementary colors throughout this painting. The distant yellow and orange flowers and the surrounding greenery are brushed with accents of blue from the irises, and small dots of yellow are dotted within the centers of the irises. In accenting each section of the painting with the complementary colors of another section, Van Gogh ties the contrasting blooms and unifies the painting. Throughout the entire painting, Van Gogh utilizes complementary pairs of multiple colors to simplify the artwork. From the colors in the painting comes the value, another element used to simplify the complex floral forms. Overall, the work is made from middle tones, with a few accents of light. The composition is split vertically in half when examining the values. On the left side of the artwork, the darker background contrasts the lone white blossom, though the blossom doesn't become the focal point as the surrounding saturated colors fight for the eye's attention. Looking at the rest of the painting, the dark line contouring the dark blue irises helps them stand out from the lighter background in the upper right corner. On the side of the painting is a pair of white and purple petals balancing out with the white blossom on the opposite side of the composition. The careful delegation of light and darks and irises creates balance within the composition. Another artist that inspired Van Gogh as well as myself is Claude Monet. Monet's works encapsulate what makes Impressionism so beautiful and interesting. He focused on capturing the fleeting moments of what he saw. Claude Monet grew up around the sea, managing his ships, chandeliering. Living here, he would gain an eye for the details of the ocean and changing of the weather. His journey as an artist began at age 15, sketching ships and caricatures. Painting was introduced to him by Eugene Boudin, a man who favored an uncommon practice of painting in the open air, a method that would define Monet's career. In 1859, he would visit Paris for the first time, attending the Académie Suisse. His time here would be interrupted when he served in the military for 2 years in Algeria. After his service, he briefly stayed in Le Havre before returning to Paris to study. Before 1872, due to a disagreement, he would move with a group of artists to Chalet-en-Berre. Monet around this time would discover Japanese prints, which would become a large influence in his work. During the 1870s, he traveled a lot, from London to where he'd meet his art dealer to Argenteuil near Paris. Here, he'd help organize an exhibition apart from the Salon of Impressionist work. Monet's The Gare Saint-Laurent, 1877, marked the first of his series in exploring the same motif in different light. Though he wouldn't fully embrace this method until the 1890s with his works like The Portal of Rouen Cathedral and Morning Light, 1894, which is a part of a series of paintings of the Rouen Cathedral. During the time of this series, he was living in a space across from the cathedral. He would have multiple canvases going at once, each focusing on a different time of day and how the sun would change the facade of the building. This specific artwork from the series lacks any real line, with the light and shadow being used to define the structure of the cathedral. Rather, the varying tones and values are used to create the detail of the form. When looking at the painting in black and white, there were only 3 values in the painting. This painting depicts the cathedral in the morning as the sun is rising. The sky behind the building is the brightest area of the painting, creating the silhouette of the building's spires and roof. The top of the cathedral is light with the lower half in shadows, obscuring the details of the entrance. The complex architecture and detail of the cathedral are created with the complexity of the light and shadow as the sun rises into morning. The colors create a soft, ghostly appearance of an otherwise solid, firm structure. The colors are a variety of blues with accents of oranges and yellows. The highlights of yellow reveal the direction of the sun, hitting the cathedral from behind. The darkest areas of the cathedral aren't just simply blues, but have accents of a burnt orange. The complementary colors create the illusion of detail in these dark areas, but are still simplified to give focus to the complexity of the upper half of the building. The color of the artwork gives it a heavenly quality, fitting for the cathedral depicted, as the idea of divine light was vital in the architecture of cathedrals. I find Monet's artwork culturally significant not only because he was one of the founders of the Impressionist movement, but like Van Gogh, he focuses on capturing the everyday in a new artistic manner, with paying special attention to capturing the fleeting moments of light and how that changes the way we see things. The meaning I derive from these works largely draws on the lack of any deeper meaning. The simple depiction of irises in a garden or a cathedral is just as beautiful as something as thematic as Jacques Louis David's Oath of the Horai. For an artwork to make an impact on the audience, it can simply be beautiful. Both of these artists' work have impacted my artistic journey, but seeing them in person caused an emotional reaction I wasn't expecting. I found myself standing in awe when viewing the artworks. To be able to see the brushstrokes, the very hand of the artists, and experience a moment in time the way they did was incredible. With the creation of cameras and photography, the reliance on painting for depicting perfect realism has dissolved. Though realism in art still holds value in style and technique, the artworks of Monet and Van Gogh push away from realism. A quote from Art@Guru, a creator on TikTok, changed the way I began tackling my work. Some art students get so wrapped up in trying to make something perfect. If you want perfection, just take a photograph. I think this idea is embodied by Monet and Van Gogh, each focused on conveying the light, color, and feeling of their subject rather than a perfect recreation. Both works still convey emotion despite the lack of any human figure, using color to create emotion and mood. The paintings are perfectly imperfect to reality, and yet they can still touch the soul of the viewer.